My name is Molzberger. I'm German, and I'm showing here the exhibition Never Let It Rest in the Holocaust Museum, Houston. Salzwedel is a little village in the north of Germany. It's in the former GDR, about 5 miles away from the border to the west. And it's a beautiful little village. It's founded in the 13th century. It's a Hanse village, which means it was in this Middle Age trading union. And when I saw it the first time, I was really impressed by it, because it's just like what you think about Germany on a postcard. A wonderful little village, and there was a concentration camp. You know, in all these little villages, if you do research, you find something. Out of this time, the Nazi system was everywhere. In this village live about 20,000 people. It's right in the middle between Berlin, Hamburg, and Hanover. Right now there live about 25,000 people. During the Nazi time there were about 20,000 people living there. I'm born in the 50s, exactly in 1953, in the Rhineland in Germany. And you know, this was just 8 years after the war ended, and I was born in the tension that was still in between families. For example, my family, the part of my mother, they were running with the system, and the family of my father, they were in resistance. My uncle George, he was a communist, and he was in 1934, he was for half a year in a concentration camp. So during all the war, my father's family was in resistance, was doing flyers. The secret police, Gestapo, came several times in the morning at 3 o'clock. When my father was 10 years old, or a little older, he remembered it very well. So in between this tension, I was born, and when I remembered the first celebrations of my family, and when everybody got drunken, sometimes some people start telling about the war, what they did, and about the cruelty of the war, and on the next day nobody wanted to tell me anything. There was quiet, there was darkness about it. And I always had questions, I never got any answers. So when I grew up later, I started working as an artist when I was 33. And when the war came down in 1989, I was just working as an artist. I was just ready to work. And so I started working about the German history. The first thing I did was to go by bicycle from Berlin into Poland, and I worked about the diary of a Jewish Polish boy, David Rubinowicz, and I went there in this village where he had lived and did pictures, met people who were in his class. In his classroom, I went to the ghetto, I saw the houses, I did documentary work about it and did an art work about it. This was shown in Salzwedel, a little village where I went after the war came down. It's in northeast of Germany between Hamburg, Hanover, and Berlin. This little village also had a history, and during the Nazi time, between 1933 and 1945, in 1944, there was a women's concentration camp. In this village was a munition factory called Drahtwerke, Eisen- und Metallwaren, but it was a cover, this was a cover, metalwork was just a cover of a munition factory. And in 1944, there came 1,500 women, girls, who had to work, were forced to work as slave workers in this factory. In 1996, the Salzwedel mayor invited women who lived all over the world now to come back to Salzwedel and invited them to meet there and talk about their life, what they had spent in this concentration camp. Salzwedel camp was an outer camp of Hamburg-Neuengamme, and there were hundreds of these little camps, bigger or smaller camps, all over the north of Germany. So this system was in almost every little town. And I was just living beside Salzwedel, so I was asked if I would do the artwork about this documentary exhibition. When young people went into the streets of Salzwedel and asked the people in the streets, what do you know about the Nazi time in Salzwedel and about the concentration camp, they found out that almost 80% of the people didn't know anything about it. And so they made the decision to do a documentary art exhibition. And so I came to work about this Salzwedel village history and about the concentration camp. When I started working about this exhibition, I almost knew nothing. And you know, in this time Germany was just reunioned. The archives were opened. Like I was able to go to Poland first time, and then I was also able to go into the archive of an East German village like Salzwedel, and we found a lot of documents there that were found about the Nazi time. And I met a man, his name is Dr. Block, who did research during the GDR time. And one Jewish family who lived in Salzwedel, the family Stein, they tried to escape to the United States and they didn't make it. And in the 50s, they found a roll under the roof of the house where they lived before they were forced into the transport to Auschwitz. And in this roll, they found many, many documents of this family. So you have this incredible number of families and people who were murdered, and then you find documents about just one family. And you can read about this family and you see how they tried to escape and how hard it was for them to live in this little village and how at the end they were killed. So this was very moving for me to find about this family, and so I did one work about this family. Then there were construction on the street in Salzwedel, and they found parts of old weapons. When the American army freed Salzwedel and the concentration camp in April 1945, they collected all the weapons from the citizens and what they found from the leftovers from the army, put all the weapons in bomb holes, set them on fire and put ground on them. And in the 90s, when they were working on the streets, they found one of these bomb holes and there were weapons in it. And I got this weapon, so I got these original weapons. Then there was a bombing in 1944 of the railroad station Salzwedel, where many people died. And as they didn't fix this, this shelter, they opened